Hello everybody and welcome to the GamerTalkz special. This is the Indie Standouts episode for 2024. Just a look back at the Steam Summer Next Fest from 2024 in which I tried a bunch of demos. Now I did one of these last year and at the time it was called the Indie Special for 2023. Since then the team and I, Mikey the boss, have decided to put all the specials under the GamerTalkz Presents banner to make them easier to differentiate. So this will be the GamerTalkz Presents Indie Standouts 2024. Most of the demos are available on our YouTube channel to watch right now. But I'm going to do a quick rundown of the ones I liked the most and a couple that I didn't like quite so much as well. Now, I'm recording this on the 1st of September, which is a little later than I'd liked because we've had a few technical issues, shall we say. So apologies for that. So some of these games are already out or close to coming out, but I'm going to run through them anyway. So the first game I want to talk about is Marwood. Marwood is a really good little game. I really enjoyed this one. Graphically it looks a little bit like a sort of Paper Mario. You're kind of looking down. It's not quite top down. You're looking sort of down at an angle. The game itself is a sort of RPG game. It incorporates elements of crafting and combat and harvesting and everything like that as well. And the gist of the game, without spoiling too much, is that you're escaping from a war in your homeland and you cross into a new land and you are basically trying to make a home for yourself. And part of the idea of making a home for yourself is having to fight some soldiers, fight some enemies, having to plant new crops and so on. So I just thought it was a very cool game. Very varied, nice soundtrack, looked great like I said. And they've just done the simple things well, which is sometimes all it really takes. So Marwood is one that's definitely going to go on my list, and that one's due out in November. Right, next game that I tried and liked is Conscript. Now, Conscript is a fictional story set during World War One. The game is a sort of top-down, dark strategy shooter mashup. I actually quite like the way they've done it. So what they've done, obviously, taken World War One, which is a real event. In that, they've created their own non-fictional story. That story revolves around you playing a lone soldier who has to navigate around the trenches and shoot enemies that may be in his way, solve puzzles like opening doors, moving weights out the way. I just thought this was a really cool game and it's really well done. The graphics look old school, but in a good way. Which kind of reminds you of some of the excellent shooter games from the arcade era. The puzzle element, obviously, is quite well done. It does make you think without being too difficult, which I like. And obviously the game as well, the gameplay is it's quite dark and gritty in places, but then that's just the way World War One inside a trench was. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. Obviously, you can play with the mouse and keyboard using the arrow keys and the mouse button to shoot. You'll also pick up new weapons and items as you go along, which you can access in your inventory, which works very smoothly, I have to say. There's also a map, which you unlock pretty early on, which is handy for navigating the area, but I quite like the way they've done it, a little bit like other similar games where you have to uncover the area by travelling around it. It doesn't just show you everything. It's described as a psychological horror, but it's not scary. It's psychological because it's dark and gritty and you've got gunfire and blood everywhere and things like that. So I just thought this was a really neat idea. I did enjoy the game. It's already out if you want to look at it as well. So yeah, Conscript, that's definitely one I'll be keeping an eye on just to see how it gets on. Okay, next one we'll discuss is Dungeon Clawler. Now, Dungeon Clawler is a sort of roguelike claw machine deck building game. So essentially you build your deck of power-ups using the claw machine mechanic, and then it's a turn-based combat game between you and some enemies. It's not the most advanced idea in the world, but I had a lot of fun playing it. Sometimes, obviously, the most simple ideas work the best, especially when they're executed in the right way, such as this one. Also, after each level, you will be giving a sort of prize, if you want to call it a prize, so you're able to build your deck a little bit further. So yeah, I just thought this was a really cool take on the traditional turn-based combat game to use a claw machine, and then also there's various power-ups, like I say, there's a spinning wheel as well. So yeah, so that's a really cool game. And I'll be keeping an eye on that one ahead of its release before the end of the year. Right, next one I want to talk about, and this is probably my favourite one. This one's called Blue Prince. Now, Blue Prince is like the Cluedo video game. So the idea is that you are the beneficiary of your uncle's estate, and your uncle has basically said that in order to inherit the estate, you have to find the fabled room 46 in his 45-room mansion. So you're invited to Mount Holly, which is the name of the house, the area the house is in. You basically have to search for room 46 by searching the other 45 rooms. Now each day, each playthrough is a day, and you only get so many steps through the house before the day ends. So what you have to do is basically go into the house, go into any room you've not been in yet, collect any items you may need for the following day, such as keys, codes, or any other clues you might come across. I love puzzle games, and I just enjoyed this one because it's so different and unique to all the ones I've come across before. You basically have to plan each day, and you basically have to plan what you're going to do with each clue, with each key, what room you need to go to. You need to remember which door goes where. You need to remember what room you've been in, what room you've not. You need to keep an eye on how many steps you're taking, where you're going, what you see, what you don't see. It's just a really good way of doing things. I really enjoyed this one, and it's definitely going to be on my list as a day one purchase. In terms of the game itself, the way it looks, I mean, the artwork is very good. Very sharp, colour to suit the rooms, and also the overall appeal of the game. The sound design is really spot on as well. There is a sort of variety of, not so much music, but kind of tracks, if you like, and it creates a sort of ambience of mystery, of puzzles, of having to think. I just thought the game was really well done. Right, next game I tried was called Old School Rally. This is another one which is already out. This is like an old school rally game, essentially. So I don't know if you remember the old Colin McRae games or V-Rally games. This was very similar to that because it has the older style graphics. It's not insanely detailed. But it doesn't have to be. Some of the older games are just fun and don't need to look the part. It has a variety of tracks which look realistic. It also has a variety of cars as well. And like I say, a variety of biomes. They're not the most detailed ever, but like I say, they don't have to be so. But I thought this was a really fun little game. And like I say, that's out in early access right now. Right, one I've been watching for a while, that I finally got my hands on, is called Quartet. Now this one is very much a traditional JRPG game. It's pixel graphics, which we all like, of course. It's very retro, a very retro look, and very retro buildings, biomes, characters, all that stuff. What's interesting about Quartet is it revolves around 4 separate characters, so there's 4 separate storylines. You can play through each one at different intervals. All these stories intertwine at some point in the game, and you actually continue as sort of a team of 4, which I just thought was a really cool idea. But yeah, Quartet, it's straight before the end of the year. Definitely something to keep an eye on if you like a JRPG game. Another one, which we've been talking about a lot on the podcast as well, is called Iron Meat. Now, this one is a lot of fun as well. It's a sort of run and gun arcade shooter. It's incredibly fast paced. It's based around an apocalyptic future for the sort of military. So essentially, you sort of blast your way through the retro-inspired stages. You have your gun, you run as fast as possible, you shoot basically everything in your sight. There's blood everywhere, bullets, enemies. There's dangerous gases and toxins to avoid. There's fires, bosses, blood. It's just constant action. So that one's out later in September. As much fun as I had, I won't be buying it because it was too quick for me. I'd enjoy something a little more relaxed, but I'll be checking out other people playing it. Right, another one that's due out this month is called Tiny Glade. Now, this one was it's a small game about drawing castles, basically. It works a little bit like games like Townscaper or Summer House, where you basically just draw buildings. But instead of houses, this one centers around castles. And what's interesting is you can draw your castles with a variety of buildings. You can then edit the walls, you can then edit the sort of exterior, the shrubbery. I just thought it was a really cool game. It's a lot more detailed than similar things I've encountered in the past. It's obviously very relaxing. There's no combat or management or winning conditions or anything. It's just a casual drawing game, which aren't my cup of tea, but I know people like them. Obviously, there's a market for them. The fact that the game's in different biomes was nice. You get obviously like a spring summer biome in the green forest, and then obviously you get winter when there's snow on the roof and the trees, and then you get early spring where the kind of sun's poking through. So a really well made, really nice looking game. But like I say, not for me. Right, another one that I played, which wasn't what I was expecting. This one's called the Vigilante Diaries. Now, when I first opened this one, I presumed it would be a sort of RPG game where you play as a sort of vigilante, and then you write in his diary or whatever. What it actually is a sort of narrative choice making adventure. So you're reading through this guy's diary, and every time you get to sort of optional entry, you get to choose the entry, and a small cinematic plays showing you what happened. Quite a cool dynamic, although it's not the one I was thinking of. There is obviously a couple of different choices you can make for each decision, so you could replay the game. There's a bit of replayability there as well. Because the game is set in a diary, it is very story rich, because you get to read every word, see every decision and every action, and you get to basically play every part. It is sort of RPG because obviously you're playing the role of the vigilante, even if you're not actually playing him. But yet the game is a sort of interactive, story-rich novel. It's a sort of very dark, crime, 1980s crime game as well. It's not from America today, it's from America from 20, 30, 40 years ago. But I thought this was a really cool way to do a game, and it's certainly a very fresh idea, so I really enjoyed it. But yeah, like I say, I probably won't pick it up, but I really enjoyed my time with it. I thought it was... Once I got to know what it was and how it worked, I actually quite enjoyed it. Unfortunately, it doesn't currently have a release date, though. Right, one I did really enjoy, this one's called Metal Slug Tactics. And now this one is the return of the Metal Slug franchise. This one is a sort of explosive comedic RTS game, which I found incredibly fun. This one due before the end of the year. I mean, we all know that I love RTS games. This particular one it had a little bit more to it than just a simple, deciding on your battle moves and things. So basically, each level is its own RTS battle, and then once you win that battle, you go back to sort of hub level, which is an RTS type level in itself. In your hub level, you get to change your weapon, change the layout of your character, change your costumes, decide on your next mission, power up, all those things. Then you go into each level, which is an RTS in itself. You have to win that level, obviously, in order to unlock the next one, and so on. I just thought this was a really cool game. And like I say, there's a bit of comedy in there as well, which we all like. This one's due before the end of 24 as well, so I'll be keeping an eye out for that one. I've already got this one on my list to pick up, so I'll be picking it up when it releases. Right, one which is already out. This one's called Dungeons of Hinterberg. Now this one is a sort of ARPG game, well, adventure puzzle game. So basically you play a sort of tourist, and you go into the Austrian mountains of the fictional village Hinterberg. The mountains basically become your adventure playground. And you're armed with a sword, so there's a bit of puzzle solving. Obviously, there's enemies to kill, there's paths to traverse, you've got to unlock things as well. It was just a very cool game, and it looks like a cartoon, it's very well made. The aim of the game is basically to uncover the magic hidden within the dungeons, underneath the mountains, obviously. You obviously have magic powers alongside your puzzle solving abilities and your sword. Basically, you have to master them to master the game. So it's a sort of ARPG, but it's also very much about skill. I had a lot of fun with this one, so I'll definitely be picking it up at some point as well. Right, another one which is out in just a few days. This one's called What the Car. And this one is unlike anything I've ever played, to be honest. It's a car game, but it's absolutely bonkers. It's very silly. It is an adventure game. You play through various levels in various biomes, and there's various goals to complete with your car. Each level, you seem to have a different car. Sometimes they have legs, sometimes it goes skiing, sometimes it's flying, sometimes it's cooking, it's playing football. It's it's a bit crazy. It's full of comedy, full of laughs, full of surprises as well because of what happens with the car. Obviously, there's various levels. The way the levels are laid out on a sort of flat map where you walk between them reminds me a little bit of the early Super Mario games, where you have to pick a level on a flat map. Obviously, each level you have to complete to the best of your ability, but there are different ways you can complete it. You can obviously get 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars based on your success levels, shall we say. So yeah, I don't really know how to describe it, but yeah, check it out. Right, another one I played, which I wasn't too keen on. This one's called Mythrecht Ambrosia Island. Now it's due before the end of the year. Now this one's a cool game, although it wasn't really my cup of tea. So the idea here is that you are shipwrecked on a lost island. It turns out to be a sort of mythical island with links to gods and magic and Greek mythology. Now, it turns out later in the game that there are actually other people on the island, and you have to utilise them to help you escape. I thought this is just a really cool sort of adventure game where you're wandering around this empty island, solving puzzles, looking for people, talking to gods, so on. I thought it was nice that you had a female protagonist as well. It wasn't just another bloke in a suit. And also the fact that obviously you get the sound of the sea goes to the sound of the sea. It sounds like an island, doesn't it? It look like one, it sounds like one. So I thought that was nice. But yeah, like I say, not really my cup of tea. Right, next one. And this was probably my favourite one of the lot. This one's called Fading Skies, and I thought this pretty incredible. The game itself obviously is a ARPG slash 3D platformer. It's obviously a fantasy world, it's not real, but it is full of well-designed characters, memorable characters. I just thought this was an excellent game. It sadly doesn't have a release date at this point, but it does have a demo, so I would encourage you to play it ahead of anticipation of its release. But yeah, like I say, Fading Skies, I thought it was excellent. Probably my favourite game of the lot. Another one I really enjoyed is called Citadelum. This is another historical city builder set in ancient Rome, as a lot of them are. Nothing fancy here. This one is a little bit like the Caesar games. If you play the Caesar games, obviously Caesar 3 we all know about. This kinda, in my mind, looks like the spiritual successor to those games. Obviously, as you can imagine, this one a lot more detailed, gives you a lot more customization options, including the controls, which are easier to use, such as rotating buildings, seeing their coverage areas, and so on. But the game obviously has been, I don't want to say updated, but it's got up-to-date graphics, it's got new building models, new character paths, new sounds, new visual models, everything. I just thought this was really cool, and as we know, I love city builders like this. I also love historical ones and history in itself. And then obviously the trading and everything as well, and the money and the aqueducts and everything. I just think these kind of things are really cool. And I really enjoyed this one. One thing I did notice as well that I liked was that the maps were a lot bigger. So you get a lot more room to build, you don't need to cram things together. And then also the combat system. The combat system is similar and also different to similar games in this genre. So it's similar in that you can pick up a group of soldiers, like 5 soldiers, and tell them to go to one place. But it's also different in the way they fight, the way they have enemies, the way they can utilise powers. So I just thought this was a really good, solid, similar but different game. And that one's due before the end of the year as well. I thought this was really cool, and I'm really looking forward to this one. So alongside Fading Skies, this might be my favourite. Last one I played is called Cataclysmal. Now Cataclysmal is a sort of blend. This is a blend of tower defense and RTS and point and click. Tower defense because you will sort of build your stronghold, and obviously you have to defend it from hordes of enemies. Defend it from hordes of enemies. You do have to do your building as well, so there's a little bit of building it in there too. It's also an RTS game as well. To plan, you to go out and forage and serve and send your minions out and so on. So this one's already out in early access. Like I say, it's quite a good game, but it's not for me. It was too dark for my liking. Honestly, I couldn't see what was going on at times because of the angles of the camera, because there was enemies, because it was too dark, and so on. So it wasn't for me, but it's a very good game in its own right. Like I say, it's out in early access now, and you can check out. So that concludes all the games I played in the Steam Summer Nights Fest, which are on our YouTube channel. There was a few more I played as well, but I've not recorded them, so I won't talk about them here. In terms of my favourites from that list, I mean, obviously, the first one I got to Marwood. It's a really cool thing. I'm looking forward to getting that one and sinking my teeth into it. And the Ultras as well. I thought that was a really cool idea. Obviously, things in space are always good. But That particular one, just wandering around an empty planet on your own, trying not to die. I quite enjoyed that. And Blueprints as well, the sort of Cluedo-looking puzzle game. I really enjoyed that one. And I'll be keeping an eye out for its release date, just because I want to find out what happens. I want to solve it. I want to play it again. Obviously, you can play it again and again. There's replayability. You can go back to it, do it in a different order, go into different rooms, use different tools, and so on. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Quartet as well. I mean, that's a really good looking RPG. I really enjoyed the demo, the time I spent with it. If you haven't checked that out already, I would encourage you to do so, particularly if you're a fan of JRPGs. Metal Slug Tactics, I mentioned it there. It was a really fun little game. Really well designed, sounds great, looks great. Bit of comedy in there. Like I say, RTA is a bit of strategy, not just a simple game. You have to think about what you're doing. You're moving your soldiers, if you like, onto separate squares. Obviously, you have to think about the way they can fight, how much damage they can do, what weapon they have, power-ups, if they're going to be damaged on return from the enemy. It's just a really cool thing. I love games like that. Makes you think a little bit. And that was one of my favourite things. Like I said there, Fading Skies. Arguably my favourite one. The game looks amazing. It plays really well. Everything just worked, And it does remind me a little bit of much more polished sort of ARPG platforming games in that area. So yeah, I was really impressed with this one. So I'll be watching out for the release date for that one. And then obviously finally Citadellum. A type of game I love. These sort of city building, historic things. I love these types of games. Like I say, it's one of my favourites because it reminds me of Theatre 3, which is a very popular old school game. And it almost looks like a spiritual successor to that, but everything's been improved. So I can't wait to try the full version. I've been spending a lot of time with the demo because it's so good. So those are the ones I'm most looking forward to. My list's going to be quite long. Like I say, that game Shame as well, I'll be picking that up because it's a relaxing puzzle game. It's a lot of fun, and they always have time for you to play them. Right, thank you for listening. I think I'm going to end it there for today. I would encourage you to check out all the games I put in today. There was trailers for some, ones that I haven't been able to put in. Obviously, you should check out yourself because they are very good. Thanks to all the developers as well who did give me trailers to put in this episode for you to look at. Obviously, it helps to market their games. It also helps to remind me what I'm talking about. So thank you everyone for that. Hope you enjoyed this quick episode of the podcast. I'm going to leave it there today. We'll be back with a main episode soon. Thanks for listening, guys. See you later.